So just for everybody who's listening in or presenters, we are now live. We won't start till 6:30, but it is actually now live. So you have to do a song and dance act, Mary, for 3 minutes. Just so you don't think you're in glorious isolation, Mary.
Oh, no, no. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn the television down because I've got tennis in the background.
Oh, yeah, don't forget phones. That's the other thing.
Yeah, turn them off.
Phone off, yeah.
We heard doctors yesterday afternoon in full council.
Yes. Yes, mine's off, so that's okay. So the attendees numbers are going up. Welcome. People are joining.
How many now?
It's 4.
Wow.
4 early birds.
Karen, do you just want me to read this out, what you've put, or can they see that?
No, you'll need to read it out.
Yeah.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
Right, we've just got a few more seconds and then we can start. People getting their seats ready. Okay, it's over to you, Mary. It's 6:30.
Good evening. Welcome to the first virtual Stirchley Ward Forum meeting. I'm glad you've joined us. We hope you enjoy the meeting, so don't forget you can type in your questions in the Q&A bar. I'll just explain something. The meeting is going to be recorded live, and then it's going to be available for the general public, so you can look at it on the council's website. I'm looking forward to this. We'll have to bear with us. There may be some glitches, but there haven't been very many across Birmingham, and I'm glad to say we're one of the first to do one of these meetings. I've got an interesting agenda. The first person on the agenda is Joe Green from Birmingham Connected, and he's going to explain about Birmingham's transport plan. So over to you, Joe.
Thank you very much, Councillor Locke, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. It's strange attending my first online ward forum, but hope it works well for everyone. So yeah, as Councillor Locke explained, I'm here to provide a bit of information this evening on the emergency transport plan that Birmingham City Council published about 2.5 weeks ago now. And some things that are happening across the city as part of that, and then open it up to questions and discussion around the Stirchley area in particular. So I think over the last couple of months since the start of lockdown, we've seen quite some significant changes in terms of transport. The first of those is that overall there's been a sort of significant reduction in traffic levels across the board. That's public transport, that's driving, that's cycling, and even with lorries and deliveries, that's not been quite as stark, but there's still been a reduction. So firstly, a lot less traffic than usual. I think what we're seeing now is there are sort of challenges around public transport in future, how we're going to be able to get people using buses and trains when there is a need for social distancing, reduced public transport capacity, and also people's confidence in using that. The flip side of that is that we have seen a lot more people walking and cycling, particularly for leisure and for exercise in their local area, which is fantastic. A lot of people have commented on how the streets around where they live have been much quieter, even sort of noticing improvements in air quality, and feeling that this is sort of leading to the creation of a more pleasant environment where they live. Something else I think is that there's been some changes in people's shopping habits. So I know a lot of people are looking to shop more locally. So Stirchley is in a very fortunate position of having some great retailers across the ward, and I know a lot of people have been supporting them over the past couple of months. We have also seen a bit of an increase in sort of speeding and some other dangerous antisocial driving, partly because of reduced traffic levels and changes in people's mindsets. So the impact on transport has been a bit of a mixed bag. Some positives, some less so. But I think what we're now starting to look at is, as we begin to ease out of lockdown, how do we sort of maintain some of those benefits as activity levels increase, and as potentially more activity is starting up, that we can still maintain safe space for walking, cycling, safe social distancing and queuing. And that was the sort of rationale behind the council putting together the emergency transport plan. At the start of this year, we were consulting on a draft Birmingham transport plan, and just as that consultation came to the end, sort of towards the end of March, obviously the whole world around us changed. We have started some work analysing that consultation, but at the moment we're planning in very sort of uncertain times, which creates all sorts of challenges, and that's why we felt there was a need for an emergency transport plan to really set out what's needed over the coming weeks and months. It's very much aligned with the draft Birmingham transport plan, so it's based on the same vision. There's the same 4 big moves that document outlined, but adapting that to current times. So it is looking at how in Birmingham we support a sustainable, green, inclusive network, and planning for a low carbon, clean air recovery from the current pandemic. We do want to see safe, healthy environments, supporting stronger communities, and we do want walking and cycling to be the first choice for a lot of people making short journeys in their local areas where they're able to. I mentioned the challenges around public transport, and we recognise that capacity will be limited in the short term, so it's looking at what we need to do to try and sort of offset that a bit, partly through sort of more people working from home, but also around people who are able to sort of walk and cycle where they can, so that we don't see a massive sort of increase in traffic levels over the next few weeks. So I mentioned that the emergency transport plan is based on the same 4 big moves. I'm just going to very quickly go through those 4 big moves and explain how that relates to the emergency transport plan. The first big move was around reallocating road space and that is now looking at how we can create safe space for walking, cycling and social distancing whilst still maintaining public transport provision, which is needed for getting a lot of people who rely on the buses and trains to get to work, including key workers. So we may look at reallocating road space to other modes, whether that's from dual carriageways, pavement widening by suspension of parking, etc. The second big move was around transforming the city centre and looking at introducing a number of traffic cells which restricted through traffic but still enabled people to access everywhere they needed to get to, and also to walk and cycle around the city centre. We're still looking to go ahead with that, and this is actually really important in terms of supporting the city centre to sort of get back into action again. So shops and visitor destinations starting to reopen, looking at parklets as an opportunity for spill out business activity. I think something that's particularly important for the hospitality industry, so cafes and restaurants that might need to use outdoor space as their businesses look to reopen. The third big move is around prioritising active travel or walking and cycling in local neighbourhoods, and this may well be the big move that's of most interest to people this evening in terms of your local area. It's looking at what we can do to ensure people feel safe to walk and cycle while still having access to everywhere they need to get to, looking at tackling speeding through 20-mile-per-hour speed limits. Also measures supporting the journey to school as pupil numbers start to increase. That might be more of an issue sort of come September time now, but it is something we've been monitoring closely. And creating low traffic neighbourhoods across Birmingham, where people are able to walk and cycle safely, where people probably sort of experience what they have just experienced for the last couple of months, where there's a lot less through traffic, and people do feel able to get around where they live, whether that's going to the shops or being out walking, cycling with family. And then the final big move is around managing demand through parking measures. Again, this is partly around reallocating space, but specifically looking at on-street parking and how we can reallocate that space for footway widening. We have done this in Kings Heath and Erdington recently, and we are looking at more centres where that can be done, including Stirchley on the Pershore Road. And again, this creates that space for spill out activity, parklet for businesses, bars, restaurants, cafes to use, as well as creating additional space for social distancing when people are queuing. So those are the four big moves that the emergency transport plan is based on. If people want to see more about the document, it is on the City Council website, birmingham.gov.uk/emergency transport plan. We can circulate that link to everyone and put it in the chat as well. And now I just want to very quickly talk about the Emergency Active Travel Fund, which the Department for Transport have announced, and this is making some funding available to Birmingham and the West Midlands. Provisionally over the coming year, the West Midlands could receive around 17 million and Birmingham could receive around 5 million from this fund. We've got a first grant of £1 million through that and announced the first series of schemes earlier this week, including a scheme for Stirchley Local Centre, which I'll finish off talking about. That funding is predominantly for temporary or trial measures, and the expectation is that they're delivered very quickly over the coming weeks. So basically in the next 4 to 8 weeks, those schemes need to start, complete and be open for use. The second tranche, the remainder of that money, is more looking at how we start to make stuff more permanent, whether that's those changes or other changes. Alongside this, the council is also receiving some funding through the local government department for reopening High Street Safely Fund. Again, Birmingham's getting about £1 million through that. That's being coordinated by our neighbourhoods directorate, but transport colleagues are very involved with that. and looking at how that can be used to support what we're doing in local centres and on high streets. That's mainly for safety measures around social distancing when people are queuing, but also quite a bit of communications to let people know about what's happening, and supporting shops and businesses to reopen. I'm going to try and do something a bit daring and share a map with you, which may or may not work, but basically through the Emergency Active Travel Fund, we submitted a list of 14 schemes to Department for Transport for funding. This went in on Monday. We're still waiting to hear, but hopefully very soon we'll have good news around delivering this. This includes 7 pop-up cycle lanes across different parts of the city, including one on the A38 linking Selly Oak and Northfield, so connecting the current blue cycle routes to Northfield, as well as other places. Some action in the city centre. I mentioned low traffic neighbourhoods. We're looking to pilot this in Kings Heath and Lozells over the next couple of months. So there will be some things happening in those 2 areas in June and July, but we are wanting to bring that forward into other areas very quickly. So I know places like Stirchley, Cotteridge, Bournville, there has been some interest in that, and we will try and sort of work with local residents to see how we can extend that. We are also looking at 2 new local centre schemes, so one in Moseley and one in Stirchley, similar to what we've done in Kings Heath, Erdington and a couple of other areas. Looking at any action we can take over the next few weeks to increase safe space for walking, cycling and social distancing. That could be looking at some pavement widening and some road space reallocation. We've had a few comments and suggestions coming from local residents, which is brilliant. And that's really helped us to select which areas we will deliver things in. We've basically just appointed an agency to do the outline design for a scheme in Stirchley Local Centre. We have shared comments and suggestions residents have provided with them, so that they can take all of that into account and consideration. And I'll be meeting with them in the next few days to look at how that's coming on. I would imagine that we'd have an outline sort of concept design in about 2 weeks, at which point I will share that with Councillor Locke, and together we'll try and get word out as much as possible to local residents to seek feedback on what people think. But we will be looking to deliver that and implement something in the next 2 months. So we are moving on a fast timescale here, because that is the expectation from Department for Transport, that this is delivered in the next sort of 4 to 8 weeks. But we will definitely make sure we sort of keep people up to date. The other reason why Stirchley was in a good position for this is obviously there's quite a lot of longer term development happening in the area. With the 7 Capital development and other things around there, there could potentially be scope for some of these temporary measures to be made more permanent through that funding, and we will, with our colleagues in development control, speak to the developers, speak to Mary and local residents, and look at if we put something in as a temporary scheme over the next few weeks, and it works and it's popular and people want to see that continue, then we'll work with developers to bring that forward. That's what we're looking to bring forward through the Emergency Active Travel Fund. Really sort of exciting times, but also we're going to be very busy because we're working to incredibly challenging timescales. But I think, just to summarise, while the past couple of months have been very hard for everyone, and it has been a really sort of difficult time, we recognise that there have been some sort of unforeseen benefits in terms of people's local areas, less traffic, better air quality, being able to get around on foot and by bike. And what we want to do is try and lock in some of those benefits as we ease out of lockdown, and try and sort of keep some of the positive elements that we have seen over the past couple of months as the city and as Stirchley really does get back to some sort of normal activity. So thank you very much for your time. Hope you found that interesting, and happy to take some questions.
Right, have we got any questions for anybody? For Joe, I mean, and you can type your questions in the live Q&A bar down the side of your screens. I thought you'd be having lots and lots of questions because there's lots of interesting information there.
I can see a couple.
There is one question. Who do the residents that have been consulted represent?
So I mean, basically to that, they've contacted us as individual residents, although sometimes it has been through existing community groups or organisations. So probably about sort of 5 or 6 weeks ago, we did put a bit of a call out through various channels, through councillors, through social media, through the web, asking people to highlight areas where there were issues or problems, where people didn't feel they were able to maintain social distancing, that it wasn't safe when queuing outside shops, when walking in the local area. So we did sort of open that up, but generally comments have come from individual residents, unless they've commented on behalf of local groups. In terms of the second question from Councillor Locke, will residents be involved? Yes, very much so. I think, as always with these schemes, it's really important that we keep people informed about what's happening, but seek sort of comments and questions around that. And as and when schemes are implemented, we want feedback. We'll be trying to engage as widely as possible to obtain that feedback, and that will sort of inform what happens next. We are in a slightly different position with the emergency transport plan when it comes to formal consultation, because we are sort of dealing with an emergency situation and there is a need to get some measures installed quite quickly. We won't necessarily carry out formal consultation ahead of implementing schemes, but we are striving to keep everyone informed and keep good communication engagement wherever we can, through channels such as this. But before anything is made permanent, that would be subject to formal consultation, the same as with any other scheme.
Any more questions? Are there any more questions? Could I just ask a question, Joe? Have you got any particular places in Stirchley where you can say where the changes will be?
So I think we have sort of previously carried out an assessment of Stirchley local centre, among others, and looking at where there might be issues with social distancing. At the moment, I think that the main focus is likely to be on the, my geography right, the sort of the northern end of Stirchley High Street, so by the old co-op and around that sort of triangle there. But then also looking along that sort of length of Stirchley High Street, and engaging with local businesses as well, to sort of see what their plans are for reopening, and if there's a need to support them with additional space. Obviously, Stirchley local centre is a bit restricted on what space is available for reallocating in places, because it's still a main sort of through route, bus route and everything, and we will need to keep sort of at least one traffic running lane in both directions, but where there are opportunities. I think we'll sort of assess the length of the high street, and then identify the key locations for delivering something around where there is a need for most space.
Councillor, there are 2 more questions that have appeared on the Q&A.
Yeah. Can't see them.
Would you like me to read them out?
If you could.
Yeah.
So one is, will consideration be made for visual disabilities? Some of the schemes elsewhere haven't been so great at that. And the second one is, when will the detailed proposals be available to view?
Okay, so I think the first question around consideration for visual disabilities and impairments. I think all of these schemes will be subject to an equalities assessment, and we should be sort of picking up those considerations as part of that. I know it was sort of partly picked up with Kings Heath and Erdington, and there was additional markings put in when those schemes were delivered, and to have some ramps to ensure sort of mobility access. We have received information from the RNIB, who've provided us with representation on what they feel is good practice for these sorts of schemes, and so we are really trying to sort of take consideration of various equality inputs. Even with the pop-up cycle lanes, we are looking at how that will be suitable for adapted bikes and trikes, but recognising that a lot of people have different sort of mobility impairments and accessibility needs, and that will be picked up as part of the equality assessment on all of these schemes. In terms of when the detailed proposals will be available to view, I think what we've asked everyone working on all these schemes, it's sort of giving them 2 weeks to produce that sort of outline design, and it will go very quickly from outline design to detailed design. So those proposals, I would imagine, should be available in 2 to 3 weeks' time, hopefully nearer the 2 weeks. And then what we now need to work out, obviously with the current situation, is the best way of getting that information out to people, recognising that we're sort of limited in doing a lot of drop-in events, that community centres aren't open, so some of the usual channels aren't available to us, and we know that not everyone is online or can access information digitally. So we will be working with ward councillors, with community groups, with residents groups, to get information out as wide as we can, really.
Are there any more questions? Sure, you must have loads more.
That is it as so far, Councillor.
Well, if you do have any questions, you can email myself or Karen Cheney, and we will make sure they go to Joe. But thank you very much, Joe. It looks very, very exciting, and I'm sure we'll look forward to what's going to happen to Stirchley High Street. Thank you very much for coming this evening.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Okay. Right. I'll carry on with the agenda. The next person I've got on the agenda is Stuart Cross, from an officer from Kier, formerly Amy, and he's going to explain about his role, what Kier are doing regarding the potholes and various issues on the roads and various things. So I'll say over to you, Stuart.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Yep, so my name's Stuart Cross. I'm the highway steward for the south of the city. Bit of background, Kier have taken over a contract from the 1st of April, and we have an interim contract to maintain and obviously improve the highway in the city. This will include the maintenance of the trees, obviously highways, carriageways, drainage, street lighting and the structures. And by now, I'm pretty sure you've always seen some Kier vehicles on the network. The good news is, within this interim contract, there will be a large investment citywide in the highways, and this programme will be able to, well, I'll be able to share this with Councillor Locke in the hopefully next few weeks, and also with everybody else at future ward meetings. So this will go into resurfacing, either be it small or large, footways and carriageways, and also any street lighting works that happen as well. Regarding COVID-19 and how that's affected our service, obviously we did have some restrictions in place like other industries. However, in that time, we have continued to provide the majority of our services due to being a key worker status. The programmes of inspection have continued. Our emergency response team, street lighting, carriageway repairs, along with the annual weed spraying has continued as well. And as these restrictions are lifted further, you will see more of Kier on the network carrying out more repairs and improvements. So that's the main bit. Just a bit of background. Obviously, previously, as I said, Amy were the contractor, so I moved over with a contract with a lot of my colleagues in April. And I suppose something that I should stress, and that's come over from day one with Kier, is really the determination you've seen actually prior to the actual handover. So up to the handover, how that happened, and since then the determination you've seen to provide a real good service to the people of Birmingham. It's quite an exciting time to be within the team. As I say, there will be some big investments this year and next, and obviously that will continue. So far, Kier have been working with City Council on a few issues and projects. Butchinsey High Street, Ernington High Street, we've been helping those guys with the social distancing down there. And well, last week also working with BCC, we had a road closure, a lane closure on the Redditch Road, for example, cutting back some hedges down there, and we got the guys from Lifford Lane in there to actually clear some of the footway as well. So it's been a good start working closely with the City Council. So no major announcement at the moment, but as I say, as soon as I do have some, I'll let Councillor Locke know, and at the next ward meeting a lot more information there. If you do have any issues you want to, obviously, if you don't have them now, but if you do have any issues you want to report to the City Council, if you go to birmingham.gov.uk and lodge the inquiry there, that'll go to the relevant team, and then normally it will be answered within 5 days. But at the moment, because we are really up to date with our inquiries, you'll probably get an inspector on site, if not the same day, definitely the following day. So any issues, please go to that website and log them on there. That should be a good way of doing it. So that's kind of me. Any questions, Councillor or Kevin?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment. Can I just, have you got any plans? Has Kier got any plans for Stirchley? Because I know you were, you went on leave a couple of weeks ago, and you were really grateful. I was really grateful because someone contacted me about a tree. The branch was literally falling off.
Oh yes.
And high wind, and I was really grateful that the Kier guys came out and really reported that, and it was very, very good. I mean, we do have walkabouts as well.
So it's important for Kier and obviously for myself to work with Councillor Locke and other councillors within the city. There is a way of reporting, obviously, but it's good that we can work together and get the job done. No messing around. So it's been a fantastic start. So we'll keep it going.
Right. Very quiet tonight. No questions. No. Right. On to the next topic on the agenda. COVID response. COVID-19 response. Well, I don't know if people want to discuss it in the Q&A. I think we did marvelously, brought people together. WhatsApp groups were formed. There was over in one part of Stirchley by the Pineapple Estate, there's quite a lot a COVID-19 support group. They do shopping and get prescriptions and various things like that. Neighbours came together, obviously socially distancing, but it was very, very good, and there was a lot of people helping each other and getting to talk to neighbours that maybe they'd never spoken to before. So although it's a tragic situation, some good did come out of it, and we've still got to be cautious, obviously, because we're just easing on the lockdown. We've got to see how things go, and I do feel that we've got to be extremely cautious in case we get a second or third wave of the virus. But with the track and trace, hopefully things won't be as bad. But it's been a hard price to pay with you know, a lot of people dying, and God, you know, it is tough. And anybody that was unfortunate enough to get it, you know, I wish everyone well, and I hope they recovered. Right, the next subject on the agenda is Bournville Lane and the lorries. This is only a short bit of information, really. Many people will know I've been trying to. We had a meeting when the baths were open back in last November, a public meeting with Great Bear, who are the logistics company who do the deliveries to and pick up from Mondelez, as it's now called. I still remember it as Cadbury's. And the lorries going up Bournville Lane caused no end of problems and issues for people. It's great safety, and they gave an email address which residents could email. I had a meeting with Sajid Khan from Transport and from Highways, the Birmingham City Council, Cadbury's and Great Bear, and things were going to be done. And we waited for another meeting, nothing happened. Then the lockdown came. I've got another meeting with them next week. I've confirmed it, and I want action. I want something done, and because it's gone on for far too long, too many years, and I feel that it, you know, it could cause a loss of a life. And I hope that, you know, we can come to some sort of agreement about, you know, some procedures and something done by Cadbury's for Bournville Lane. So that's the update. When I'm hoping some of the residents can meet with Cadbury's after the meeting in 2 or 3 weeks' time, and hear what they've got planned for us. So just hope that things go well next week. Are there any questions? No? Right, is there any other business? I know this is a strange way of doing meetings, and it's not the same as a physical meeting, but it's, at the moment, it's the best we can do. It's a trial, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, I'm hoping in 2 to 3 months' time we can have a physical meeting, and hopefully that will go back to being normal again. Whatever normal is, it's such a surreal time at the moment. But I'd like to thank you all for coming. This has ended a little bit quicker than I thought.
Excuse me, Councillor, there is one question that's come in relation to Bournville Lane. Have both Great Bear and Mondelez confirmed their attendance at the next meeting?
Yes, they have. Yeah. Yes, we've made sure of that. I shall lock the doors because we've got to go over to Mondelez for the meeting, and you know, we've got a plan in place so that they do attend. So I would say to people who live in Bournville Lane to still keep sending in the emails and reporting it. I know Evan, who lives in Bond Street, he does take photographs, and that's very helpful, because it's an accident waiting to happen. It's a wonder no one hasn't been injured before. And I'm not just saying that. It is a serious. You know, I don't take it at all lightly, and something has to be done.
Councillor, there's been on a separate issue. Is there anything that can be done about the closure of TSB?
I'm really annoyed about this. I found out yesterday that the ATM machine is coming out. Thank you again, Evan. I did email them and said, why is this? The bank is supposed to be closing in September, but it's still closed because of COVID-19. I can't see why, even if they couldn't stay open for the ATMs be there just till about the end of July, beginning of August, for until Morrison's open, because I believe Morrison's will be opening sometime in July, about 3-4 weeks time. So just for that period, short period of time, because it's very, very short notice about this. And I've contacted Steve as well, Steve McCabe. I haven't heard from him, but it's not good enough, because there aren't any banks any longer in Stirchley. The nearest one is Cottridge, and I do apologise. Anything else? Thank you, Paula. Yes, I know, Morrison. I think we're all looking forward to Morrison's being open, because we've missed having, although we've got a couple of grocery stores in Stirchley, I think missing a larger store during the pandemic has been very awkward for many of us, especially people who have had to isolate and getting shopping. And I think we all will be looking forward to them opening and having an ATM machine. Unfortunately, I did ask if they would have a post office, because the post office in Dad's Lane is closed, but they say no. But again, the nearest post office is up in Cottridge at Spa, and although there is one at Vicarage Road, if you're elderly or you're less mobile, it's very difficult to get to some of these places. Anything else?
Yes, Councillor, I think you've just mentioned it really. Is it feasible to ask the post office if they could open a branch up in Stirchley?
I could do. I don't know whether they will. I know, I will write to them and see what happens. I don't know whether I'll have very much luck, but I know a lot of post offices closed because people are paid through the bank and various things like that. But I can ask anyway. Is there any more?
No more questions, Councillor Locke.
This isn't like the Stirchley I know. There's usually lots and lots to say. This is strange. The strange times we're living in, and I hope everybody keeps well. and look after yourselves, and thank you for tuning in. And let's hope the next meeting we have will be a physical meeting, and you know, we'll see what, and any progress or any information regarding the emergency, the transport plan. People will, I'm asking for residents and businesses to be consulted, as well as myself as well. So it seems there's a lot to do in quite a short space of time. So it will be it will be good. Right. Right, and thank you for coming, and I'll say good evening.